with ERISA, there's a statute, but only 60 to 70% or 50 to 60% of policies are ERISA policies. And those are usually people who work for a big company, right? Maybe it's a self-funded ERISA policy. Maybe it's the government they're working that has an ERISA policy. But what about the person who has the Florida Blue policy or the United Healthcare policy that they get through their employer? It's not an ERISA policy.
Well, let me back it up.
Is there teeth? Is there any teeth for a guy like you to take that case?
Those cases can be harder. So ERISA generally regulates plans that are provided by employers. If you have full-time employees at this law firm who get health insurance, and through the company,
group policy,
that's probably an ERISA plan.
But it's not a self-funded ERISA plan.
Doesn't matter.
I know that there's different levels.
It can be self-funded or could be fully insured. It's still an ERISA plan.
Okay.
If you work for a church or a synagogue or a governmental entity, school district, state, that's usually not an ERISA plan. There are gray areas with things like wastewater districts. I hate to tell you how much.
What's the percentage of policies?
At least 60.
60% of health insurance policies. So somebody, United Health, let's just say about United Healthcare, just briefly, right?
Yeah.
Someone has a United Healthcare policy. There's a 60% chance it is an ERISA policy,
right?
Which means it's governed by a statute, which means if there's a denial of the claims, you don't go and off the CEO, you call a lawyer who's going to take a look at it and they're going to go after them because that person isn't going to have to pay you out of pocket. You're going to be able to look at the policy, go after the insurance company, either get the claim paid, your fees are going to be taken care of because there's a statute there. The
first sets of questions that I ask when somebody calls me is, let's say we're talking about somebody's son, and I usually am dealing with the parents of insured people. I ask them, where does your son get the health insurance? Did you buy an individual policy? That's not ERISA. Or does your son get the insurance through parents? And if the son gets the insurance through the parents, who do the parents work for? If they work for the state of Florida, then I know that's probably not an ERISA plan. If they work for a private equity firm or something like that, then it is probably an ERISA plan.
So you're saying even like for mine, like the employees that work in my office, because I don't know whether it's an ERISA or not. We purchase it through whatever provider we have, whatever administrator makes the offering during a particular time. I think it's through Paychecks.
Right.
They have a whole group team that deals with health insurance. Most of those policies, 60%, you're saying, if it's an employer, a private employer, is going to fall under that ERISA.
Well, if you are the plan sponsor and if the insurance is provided to your full-time employees through the employer,
yeah,
then this is probably an ERISA plan.
Well, people need to know that. But that's the first investigative step that you take. Someone reaches out.
Yeah, I have to know whether the statute applies or whether the common law applies. And the common law otherwise, the common law doesn't really regulate contracts, but it helps you interpret contracts, right? And if it's a common law case, then there are different rules, and there's different rules of construction, and there's typically no attorney's fees provision. I've never seen a health insurance policy. I've been looking at health insurance policies for 30 plus years. I have never seen an attorney's fees provision built in that policy. It's not there.
Why would they do it?
They would never do it. They would never do it. So, and that makes it harder because then you're talking about a $25,000 claim that springs out of a non-ERISA setting. I can't recover my fees. I would have to get a third or a contingency share of the recovery, and that's hard.
And the problem with that, though, and what people don't understand also is let's say a third. Like, let's say someone comes to you with a $25,000 denial, right? And you say 100% I can recover it, but it's going to take me a year,
right? And
it's going to take me 500 hours. There's no way you could do it. You just don't have enough time in the day. Like you would be getting a third of 25 is what, 8,666 or something like that? It's right in that range. But that you'd be being paid $8,666 to get them a portion, whatever the other portion is, the 16 side of it.
Right.
And unfortunately, your time is you can't do it.
So I can't. I run my own little law firm,
Yeah.
and I'm not these are not retirement cases. These are cases that keep the door open and pay for the bills.
Yeah.
And I can't take on cases that I know I'll end up losing money on.
Yeah.
But I can take a look at those little cases if they present a systemic class issue. If you've got a situation where, and I'm going to have a hard time thinking of an example, but you have a coverage decision that seems like it's not unique to this particular.
Yeah, they're denying
insurance.
CT scans for everybody that comes in with a thing in their chest, and they say, no, we're not going to do CT because then you could do an X-ray.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, you could sort of tee this up on a class basis and attempt to litigate on behalf of all the people who have been denied coverage, and that converts a $25,000 claim into maybe a seven-figure claim. And in that case, a third, I can justify taking the case on because I'm going to spend that kind of money, and at least I have the potential of recovering it.